in the future. And we never felt alone, you guys, because we had all of you. And we had your well wishes and your messages and your calls and prayers and thoughts. And we just felt like we had a big safety net, loving arms around us all the time. So cheers to you. I'm going to have a drink. Cheers to you guys. And Karl, Karl, there's nothing negative about Karl Egge. He is the definition of positivity. And he's kind of driven, okay, and focused. And so here he is, from where he was so devastated by this stroke. He's walking kind of shaky, but he can walk, and he can sure sit up straight now. He got his driver's license back, so watch out. I rode with him in a golf cart, and it wasn't as scary as it used to be. Hold it down. So thank you, Karl, for working so hard to get better and to be as good as you are today. So can we just sing happy birthday?
Yes.
Erica will lead us on.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Karl. Happy birthday to you.
So who is this Karl Egge guy that we're all clapping our hands for? Who is this guy? Well, you all know him really well. And some of us might say that he's a blunt person. He's so direct that it can be kind of painful sometimes. Can you tell, Karl, that I'm kind of changing this into a roast now?
Oh, thanks for telling me.
Okay. And just as an example, so we were invited to a party by a gay friend who said, heads up, at this party there's going to be a lot of gay people. And we're like, happy to be included, great. And we're at the party, we're having fun, and Karl says, in a loud voice, I can't believe it. I'm at a party with all of these gay people, and I'm having a lot of fun. Charming, but a little yikes, a little bit of a yikes there. Karl can also be kind of impatient, right? Oh, must be a different guy. He can be impatient. So, back in the day, we were invited to kind of a fancy dinner at McAllister College, and Madeleine Albright was a featured speaker. Secretary of State of the United States of America. And she is at the podium. And Mike McPherson was the president of the college. And he was sitting a little bit of ways away from Madeleine Albright. Well, Madeleine Albright went on, and maybe some of you were there. It went on quite a bit, and well, Karl felt like it had gone on way too long. So he's looking at Mike McPherson, getting his eye, and he's going like this. Like Mike McPherson is supposed to cut off the Secretary of State of the United States of America. Well, God bless Mike. I could see, he just smiled, and then I could see this little note being passed from the main table all the way over, and it had Karl's name on it, and it says, "Chill out, Karl, your friend Mike." Well, I have that note laminated, and as you can see, it's dog-eared. I pulled it out. It's nice. So another thing about Karl is he loves to give advice. He cannot help himself. He's got got so many good ideas what you ought to do. See? Aha! Other victims are here. And it usually goes something like this. You haven't asked me what I think. But I know you're going to do what you want no matter what I say, because you always do. And then it goes like he goes on with some advice. And the advice is like kind of crazy sometimes. I mean, you never do that, but it's always unexpected advice, and sometimes it's really brilliant. Often it's really brilliant. Example. So our granddaughter Natalie was starting St. Olaf College, and she was living with us, and so we had a lot of nice time with Natalie. So she gets down to school, and Karl calls her up and says, "Natalie, you haven't asked me what you ought to do. Why? You ought to call the office of the president of St. Olaf College and tell him you want to have a cup of coffee. He needs to hear from the freshman what it's like to be a freshman at his college." Well, kind of crazy idea, but kind of brilliant too. But when Karl gives advice then, he follows up. "Natalie, did you call the president to get that coffee lined up yet?" So many of his students got a lot of advice from him, and it was a perfect situation for Karl, because the students liked his advice, and he loved giving advice. And I guess we shouldn't be surprised that when he had his stroke and word got out, Karl got like over 100, maybe 200 emails from former students telling him what was up with them and thanking him for the way he influenced them and changed their lives. He gave them ideas and hopes and aspirations. I see some heads nodding that they never would have had without the advice of Karl Egge. And he would tell them who to call and who to call back and when to be a pleasant pest and and then once they get their job, how to help others. And one of these emails that we got, it just kind of got to me, so I'm going to read it to you. It says, "Karl, so I recently heard about your medical situation and wanted to reach out. Not to say I'm sad, which of course I am, but to thank you. Of course, I don't expect you'd remember me, but I was a business and economics major, class of 1985, almost 40 years ago. There were lots of smart students around that year, but I wasn't one of them, at least academically. You pushed me past my comfort level, for which I am grateful. I listened to your sage advice on countless topics which weren't always related to business. Many of those lessons were expressed in the later part of the lecture, or the final minutes of class, or through an article you suggested we read. So if you weren't in class, you really missed out. No one took notes on the life lessons you taught and passed them along to classmates who would wake up for the class. You had to be there to get the nugget of wisdom, decorum, common sense, or etiquette. The lessons I took away were reinforced quickly early in my professional career, and I often had that aha moment where I'd say, that's what he was talking about. Some of those lessons I remember were about introductions, networking, a handshake. And the handshake lesson is, reach in deep, not one of these, reach in deep, look them in the eye, couple of shakes, and get out of there. So, eye contact, how to express yourself, table manners, and countless others. No, I didn't do well in the midterms or finals, but I did ace the life lessons. They have served me well throughout my professional career and in my personal life. I've also passed them along to my children and my junior hires. Your passion for teaching students was always more than a lecture. My transcript does not reflect what you taught me about life, people, and relationships. While I never felt worthy of coming back to share my experiences with your class, I do want you to know that you've made a lifelong impression. Thank you, Professor Egge. for all that you have done for so many along this wonderful journey of life. Aww. Well, pretty special guy, and so glad, so glad that we're all alive and happy to be here and say happy birthday.